So just explain that a little bit more for me. What were the political points that Xi could score by denying his people the warmth in winter that they get from our coal?
There are different factions within China. Of course, there are groups that are very committed to expanding solar power in China. There are groups that are very committed to a nuclear future for China. Of course, the coal companies are all state-owned, which means they are power bases of their own. Those state-owned coal companies are not necessarily aligned with Xi Jinping on all issues. That is, they are very closely aligned with other power bases. Xi Jinping himself is most closely connected with a group out of Shanghai, but the groups that control the state-owned enterprises in the coal and steel belt are on an opposite political faction in China. The result is that internal infighting, in ways that are very opaque to us, it's very hard for us to know what's going on. I admit, I don't know what's going on. What I do know is that there is a lot of conflict inside China that gets reflected out into the rest of the world.
So this may not be all bad. It could mean that after November, after he's, probably re-elected, he might put down the gloves and make peace, not war, with the likes of Australia.
Well, let's not say re-elected. Let's say after he cements his position at the top, because, of course, there's no elections in China as such. Not even within the Communist Party, there aren't elections. I mean, there's a formal vote in the on the Politburo, but that hardly counts as an election. After he cements his position, things might calm down. We'll see. The problem is that it really doesn't matter very much what his formal titles are. What matters is, can he stay in power? And Xi Jinping's problem is that he has no power base of his own. He rose to the top in China by being the blandest man in the country, by trying to have no enemies, not because he had so many friends. The theory among Western experts 10 years ago was that the result was that Xi Jinping would rule by consensus, that he would seek a kinder, gentler China that would be more open to the West. We've seen exactly the opposite. Unable to forge a consensus within China, he's consistently pitted power centers in China against each other to make sure that the opposition to his rule is fractured and at each other's throats. That's what keeps him in power. And that's why it's so dangerous for the rest of the world.
It's a fascinating insight, and more fascinating because we know very little about the inner workings and the operation of the government in Beijing. Salvatore Babones, thank you so much for your time and your insight.